Hey, what is up guys? This is Josh the Gamer here, coming at you with a brand new video. So today we are going to be continuing on our Quorum game development tutorials. In this tutorial we are going to be learning about animation with using image sheets. Now, I've already created an image sheet using all of these images here, as well as loaded it. Loaded the initial drawable that we want to render first, and then scaled it up to 18 because these images are fairly small, so I scaled it up to 18 times its size, so now it's pretty large, so you guys can actually see what's going on. And then I added it. So let's go ahead and actually run this to see what we're working with initially. Then there we go. See, as you can probably tell by the image, it's a very pixelated image, and that's because the initial images are used in my Minecraft mod. I just thought that, you know what, since this is going to be about animation, I may as well use them because the textures that I'm using, the texture that I use these images for, is actually an animated texture. So you know what? Why not use it? So, alright. So let me kind of explain what this load method is doing right here, because it's kind of a complex load method that you haven't seen before. Now, of course, as you know, the load method takes in, well, this load method in particular takes in a texture region, and this get drawable returns a drawable, so it still works with a texture region. That's why I'm not getting any errors. And what we're doing here is we are getting the drawable from the image sheet called dragonite_ingot1, which is this first one here, and then whatever that value is that's returned as a drawable is what this load method will load into the game engine, and then we add it to this, or then we scale it to 18 times its size, and then we add it to the screen. Therefore, you know, giving us that effect that we had when we ran it. So now we're actually going to move on to the animation part of the tutorial. First off, what we want to do is, up above our main action, we need to create a few variables. We need to create a number variable for FPS, an elapsed time variable, and a frame value. So let's go ahead and create that. Number, we're just going to say FPS. We're going to set it to 4 because we want this animation to run at 4 frames per second. Next, we want an elapsed time variable, which is also a number. So number elapsed time, we're going to set that equal to 0. Next, we want a integer value for our frame. So integer frame, we're going to set that equal to 1. Now, inside of our now we need to actually use our update method. This is the kind of thing that the update method is actually used for, and it's a very useful it's a very useful action to understand. So let's get started with creating a. We need to set the elapsed time. So elapsed time equals elapsed time plus seconds. Now what this will do is it will add the amount of time between each frame to elapsed time, and then set whatever that value is to elapsed time. So those of you who may be coming over from, say, Java or C#, more specifically Java, this can also be achieved by elapsed time plus equals 1, or plus equals seconds. However, Quorum doesn't have that operator, so it has to be written out as elapsed time equals elapsed time plus seconds. Next, we need to create an if statement. And we're going to say if the frame is greater than, we have 29 frames. We want to set the frame back to 1. So frame equals 1. Alright. Actually, no, that's inside of this one other if statement. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy that if statement so we can place it in there. We need to do if elapsed time is greater than or equal to 1 divided by FPS. Then what do we want to do? Well, what we want to do is we want to do a frame equals frame plus 1. So we're adding 1 to frame every single time. Then we want to do that if statement where we're testing what frame we're on. So if frame is greater than 29, set the frame back to 1. Next we want to do our drawable. So in my case it's img colon load assets, or no, we want to do a sheet colon get drawable. Then we want to do a dragonite underscore ingot close parenthesis, and then we want to concatenate a frame to that. So every single time the frame updates, it'll apply the number to that text value. Now that we have that out of the way, we also need to do elapsed time equals elapsed time minus 1 divided by FPS. If I would spell it right, that would help. Okay. So that pretty much does it for the animation code. Let's go ahead and run it, or save it and run it. Now, as you can see, the animation is actually starting to go. So, like I said, this is running at 4 frames per second. It's not a very fast animation at all. So let's actually go ahead and change our FPS. We want it to be, say, at, let's say, 9 frames a second. So it'll be faster. We can go ahead and change that, save it, build it, run it. And now, as you can see, it's starting to go a lot faster. It's really nice, actually, and, you know, this is actually a really cool thing if you actually want to, you know, have animation in a game, but you don't want to reference multiple images over and over and over again. You can just use an image sheet and reference them that way. And then this is pretty much at 60 frames, which is pretty damn quick if you ask me. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys, for animating a texture or animating an item within Quorum. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all in the next tutorial.